Hello students, this is Kanupriya, PGT Geography, and here I am once again with my next video on chapter which we were discussing, that is Geographical Perspective on Selected Issues and Problems. This is my third video on this chapter. In my previous video, we had discussed about urban waste disposal. We had studied that urban waste disposal or solid waste disposal has emerged as one of the serious problem in urban areas. Solid waste or urban waste is creating because of the domestic effluents as well as the industrial waste. And all of these waste are not properly managed and disposed of, and because of which it becomes the breeding ground for the number of mosquitoes, flies and rodents, which are creating serious health hazards as they are the carriers of number of diseases. There are number of metropolitan cities who are disposing the solid waste in a proper manner, but there are other number of cities where solid waste management is very poor. That is, where urban waste disposal is not properly managed, where solid waste or urban waste is disposed of in the open spaces and nearby surroundings, and because of which a new pollution has been created which is called as urban waste disposal. After that, we had discussed about rural urban migration, how people migrates from the rural areas to urban areas. And with this topic, we had studied a case study which was based on an individual named as Ramesh. Why he had migrated from rural area to urban area, that we had discussed in the previous video. So today we'll discuss the rest of the topics of this chapter. So let's start. Today's first topic is problems of slums. The word slum you must have heard a number of times, and these slums are present in the urban areas. And there are number of problems which are related to slums. So let's discuss. The concept of urban center as well as rural center is very well defined in settlement geography. Moreover, the differences between rural center and urban center is given in your book, that is NCERT book, in number of chapters which are given in your book, that is Fundamentals of Human Geography, as well as India, People and Economy, that we had discussed earlier. There are number of differences which are related to rural center and urban center on the basis of their functions, on the basis of their language, on the basis of their social relationships, on the basis of the political scenario, economic reasons and technological reasons also. Both urban and rural settlements are different in terms of their functions, and sometimes they complement each other also. But apart from these, rural and urban centers have also emerged into two separate cultural, social, political, economic and technological divide. India, which has a predominance of rural population, approximately 69% of the total population in 2011, and where villages are considered the ideal republics by Mahatma Gandhi, most of the rural population are still poor performing primary activities. Here, most of the villages exist as appendix to the core urban center, forming its hinterland. This may give an impression that urban centers exist as undifferentiated, homogeneous entities in opposition to the rural areas. On the contrary, urban centers in India are more differentiated in terms of their socio-economic, political and cultural factors and other indicators of development than in other areas. At the top, there are farmhouses, high-income group localities which are characterized by well-developed urban infrastructures like wide roads, street lights, water sanitation facilities, lawns, well-developed green belt, parks, playgrounds, provision for individual security and right to privacy. So all these are the important characteristics of urban centers that we are very well aware of, that in urban centers there may be big houses, big buildings, big infrastructure, well developed roads, street lights, sanitation facilities, playgrounds, parks. There will be provision of individual security, that means there are security facilities which are provided to people, as well as right to privacy. All these things, we think that in urban areas we can find all of these things in a very well manner. At the other extreme of it, there are slums, jhuggi jhopadi clusters, and colonies of shanty structures. That means, on one hand, we are finding a very good quality of life in urban areas, but at the other extreme of it, we are also finding number of slums, jhuggi jhompadis, and colonies which are not in good quality. All of these are inhabited by those people who were forced to migrate from rural areas to these urban centers in search of livelihood, but could not afford proper housing due to high rent and high cost of land. So basically, all of these slums and jhuggi jhompadis were developed by those people who forcefully migrate from rural areas to urban areas for better employment opportunities. As we had discussed in the case study of rural urban migration, an individual named as Ramesh, who migrated from rural area to urban area to get better employment opportunity. So basically, all of these slums and jhuggi jhompadis were inhabited by those particular people. And it is because of the fact that they could not afford proper housing due to their high rent and high cost of land. They occupy environmentally incompatible and degraded lands. Slums are the residential areas of the least choice, dilapidated houses, poor hygienic conditions, poor ventilation, lack of basic amenities like drinking water, light, toilet facilities, etc. Open defecation, unregulated drainage system, and overcrowded narrow street patterns are serious health and socio-environmental hazards. So basically, all of these are the biggest problems that the people living in the slums areas are facing. These are the houses which have poor hygienic conditions, poor ventilation facilities, lack of basic amenities like drinking water, sanitation facilities, and moreover open defecation, which are causing serious health hazards to the people who are living in the slums. Moreover, most of the slum population works in low paid, high risk prone, unorganized sectors of the urban economy. Consequently, they are the undernourished, prone to different type of diseases and illnesses, and cannot afford to give proper education to their children. The poverty makes them vulnerable to drug abuse, alcoholism, crime, vandalism, escapism, apathy, and ultimately social exclusion. So basically, the people who are residing in the slums, they have to work at low wages. They are the highly risky groups of the society. They work in the unorganized sectors of the economy. And because of that, the people residing in the slums will remain undernourished, and they will be prone to different types of diseases and illnesses because of the poor hygienic conditions, and moreover they cannot afford to give proper education to their children. And because of all these factors, these people are the most vulnerable group of society, which can lead to drug abuse, alcoholism, apathy, drugs, etc. The last topic of this chapter is land degradation. So let's discuss what is land degradation and how it is affecting our environment. As we all know, the pressure on agricultural land is increasing. And it is not increasing just because of the limited availability, but it is also by the deterioration of the quality of agricultural land. Soil erosion, Waterlogging, salinization, and alkalinization of land is leading to the degradation of land. What happens if land is consistently used without managing its fertility? Land is degraded and productivity declines. Land degradation is generally understood either as a temporary or a permanent decline in the productive capacity of the land. Though all degraded land may not be wasteland, but unchecked process of degradation may lead to the conversion to wasteland. There are two processes that induce land degradation. There are natural factors as well as human beings. National Remote Sensing Center, that is NRSC, has classified wastelands by using remote sensing techniques, and it is possible to categorize these wastelands according to the processes that have created them. So basically, land degradation is the process by which there is the deterioration of the quality of agricultural land, or it is a temporary or a permanent decline in the productive capacity of the land. It is a very serious problem. Land degradation may not be called as a wasteland, but if the processes remain unchecked, then the degraded land can lead to the wasteland or a barren land. So there are two main reasons because of which there is deterioration of the quality of land, that is natural reasons and human beings. National Remote Sensing Center have categorized wastelands by using remote sensing techniques. So now let's discuss the various categories. We have gullied or ravinous land, desertic or coastal sands, barren rocky areas, steep sloping land and glacial areas, and all of these are primarily caused by the natural agents. All of these are included in wastelands which are categorized by National Remote Sensing. There are other types of degraded lands such as waterlogged and marshy areas, land affected by salinity and alkalinity, and land with or without scrub, which have largely been caused by natural as well as human factors. There are some other types of wastelands which includes degraded shifting cultivation area, degraded land under plantation crops, degraded forest, degraded pastures, and mining and industrial wastelands are caused by human action. It indicates that wastelands caused by man-made processes are more important than natural processes. So basically, land is getting degraded mostly because of the human activities. Here is a case study which is related to land degradation. Jhabua district is the westernmost agroclimatic zone in Madhya Pradesh. It is in fact one of the 5 most backward districts of the country. It is characterized by high concentration of tribal population, that is Bhils. Bhils are the tribal groups which are found in Jhabua district. The people suffer poverty due to high rate of resource degradation, both forest as well as land. The watershed management programs, which were funded by the Ministries of Rural Development and Agriculture, Government of India, have been successfully implemented in Jhabua district, which has gone a long way in preventing land degradation and improving soil quality. Watershed management programs acknowledge the linkage between land, water and vegetation and attempts to improve livelihood of people through natural resource management and community participation. In the past 5 years, the programs funded by Ministry of Rural Development alone, Rajiv Gandhi Mission for Watershed Management, has treated 20% of the total area under Jhabua district. The Petlawad block of Jhabua, which is located in the northernmost part of the district and represents an interesting and successful case of government NGO partnership and community participation in managing watershed programs. The Bhils, which are the tribal groups found in this area in Petlawad block, for example, through their own efforts have revitalized large parts of the common property resources. Each household planted and maintained one tree on the common property. They also have planted fodder grass on the pasture land and adopted social fencing of these lands for at least 2 years. Even after that, they say there would be no open grazing on these lands but stall feeding of cattle, and they are thus confident that the pastures they have developed would sustain their cattle in future. An interesting aspect of this experience is that before the community embarked upon the process of management of the pasture, there was encroachment on this land by a villager from an adjoining village. The villager called the Tehsildar to ascertain the rights of the common land. The ensuing conflict was tackled by the villagers by offering to make the defaulter encroaching on the common property resource a member of their user group and sharing the benefits of greening the common lands or pasture. You can see it on the chapter in the chapter that is land resources and agriculture. So this was the case study related to land degradation. This is all for today and this is the end of the chapter. If you find any doubt in this chapter, please come up with your doubts. Thank you so much.